Greetings, welcome back to my channel. This is Stasiabliss, where we talk about Kundalini awakenings and all things life force. I just want to preface this video by saying I don't really know what I'm going to talk about today. I have been getting a lot of feedback from previous videos that I just kind of want to chomp around with you. The video I did on Kundalini and aging is doing very well. Thank you for watching. I got some interesting feedback on this that I wanted to, I guess, address. This idea of not knowing what happens after we die. Of course, all of us are here, so we just speculate, right? The words that I shared before were based on, religious ideals. In some Eastern traditions, reincarnation is the deal. I spoke about some Christian ideals of resurrection that speak about bringing the body and the spirit back together. That's all, again, religious speculation. We do have some proof of people who have remembered their past lives, who can say specific details. You can watch videos online about that. My job is never to convince you of anything. I'm literally just exposing you to thoughts and ideas that I've had, experiences that I've had over the decades of my searching and wandering. Someone called me a seeker. I am hugely Sagittarian in nature, including my North Node, which is in my 6th house. So there is a lot about wandering and seeking and finding information in my Sagittarian nature, and then being able to communicate that in my relationships and being able to be present and be a diplomat or whatever in my 6th house, Libra ruling. Whew, it's warm. So I really just like to share things that I've come across, things that I've studied and learned and seen and observed and experienced in myself, and just bring it to you. And you can do whatever you want with it. You can listen to it, you can not listen to it. I always think we should just, take what resonates. If it helps us in our evolution, if it helps us empower and evolve and move forward, great. And if it doesn't, we just discard it, right? A lot of my experiences have been hands-on. I travel a lot in India. I've studied a lot of spiritual traditions. A lot of the stuff I've done has been deep inner work. Did a lot of psychedelics in my day, did a lot of inner travel, lots of years of meditating, spent time living in an ashram, living the yogic lifestyle, and lots of different relationship experiences, lots of traumas and tragedies, accidents, almost dying multiple times, raising children alone, baby daddies who left and didn't support us, lots of really crazy experiences for me, which made me turn to spirit, made me turn to my spiritual practices, do the deep inner work, do the trauma healing, go to the depths that I could in order to find peace for myself. And of course, during my own awakening processes, which hit me again and again every time I was face down on the floor, bawling about whatever it was that I was having to go through during the many years of exploration, to get me to a place right now where I love myself and my life and my the blessings that I've reaped from my journeys. And I just feel like with these experiences, it is mine to share with you, hoping that it can, possibly support you through some difficult times and difficult passages. I'll just take an experience out of my past, just grab one and share it with you, just to give you a little glimpse. This is me having my 2nd child. I was with child with my, I was completely in love with this man. He seemed like the most ideal partner ever. I always seem to attract like very spiritual seekers also. And of course we do attract people who reflect us, as I said in the last video. And he was also wandering, seeking. We met on one of his wandering journeys. He wanted to take me beyond the reality that I knew. And of course, that was kind of my mode usually. So I wasn't really used to somebody doing that to me. It was like usually me being like, come on, let's get out of your comfort zone. Let's go. And he was someone who was, moving me further out of my comfort zone, out of known reality into like a really kind of unknown zone in our travels. He didn't like to have a plan. He didn't like to even have money with him. He just wanted to see the magic arise in the moment. And of course that was fun to an extent, but I already had a young child that I was mothering, and he became uprooted from the people that were helping raise him, which he does have a man that helped raise him. That's not his biological father, but anyway, I wanted to follow this man I was so in love with and took my young boy, which caused him a great deal of stress and suffering. And he had a lot of health stuff that broke out from, leaving where he was most familiar and the people that he loved the most. And then I became pregnant with this man's baby, and he didn't want to live in the Northwest where my other child's family was. He wanted to live more in the sunny locale. So now I have this split in myself, which is very myself node Gemini in the first house, and I'm having to go back and forth between what is good for this child and what is good for this child. And it was a great rupturing in myself to have this baby who, he left me while I was pregnant. He didn't really believe I was pregnant, and then he didn't think that I was needing him around. He showed up for the birth and just signed the papers. I had to have a cesarean because of all the stress. I moved 5 times during that pregnancy and lived on different couches in people's houses. Finally got a place to stay where I thought we were going to be together, and he waited out my stitches healing for 6 weeks until the day after Christmas Day, when he bought a plane ticket and left again. And he made fun of me the whole time I was in bed, saying I didn't really need to be there. And it was like a lot of really sticky, yucky trauma stuff for me. Now I had these 2 boys, and I was back in the Northwest. I took myself back up there. It felt like more supportive at the time. And I was working full-time writing for an online newspaper. It's where I logged hundreds of articles on the Guardian Liberty Voice. I was writing 8 to 10 articles a day during that whole pregnancy, supporting and paying the bills there, of which I ended up not really being able to pay for fully because this man did not help at all. Instead, he was volunteering his time doing things, which seemed noble and all, but wasn't really what I needed. And so the people who'd rented us the house, who I knew, ended up moving back in with me and the baby, which had its blessings, and it was a little awkward too. I could go on about the story of this man who I kept trying to make it work with because I badly wanted my children to have a father figure. Of course, I had a distortion around that, willing to accept almost any kind of behavior because I just wanted it so badly at the time. And he wouldn't provide anything, he didn't even want to be the one in charge of the children. I was meant to do it all, right? And of course that pushed me to do it all, where I actually became the provider of my kids without a daddy, and have been the one providing and running my own business. And these videos is part of that, part of me just sharing a lot of the things that I've learned to process these things and come into center and not hold any bad feelings toward this man. In fact, he taught me a great deal about coming into my personal power and finding that I could do it, and recognizing the two flighty spiritual parts of me, the narcissistic parts of me that I was like assuming that everybody should like help me out and so forth, and let me just be who I was. And I would often stay with people and then just, up and leave and maybe not stay in touch with them or whatever, because I was just trying to do my best as a single mom. So my practices, my yoga practices, my inner work, which is a lot about loving the paradox, right? It's about coming to terms with the light and the dark within you, with the good and the bad in your life, and seeing the purpose of it in blossoming yourself into empowerment. So where I felt very disempowered and not supported before, had he stayed and done the noble fathering thing at the time, I may have stayed more helpless. Had I listened to him, he didn't think I should be doing any of this stuff and making videos or whatever. I should just be a good wife. And had I sort of succumbed to that situation, I wouldn't be the woman that I am today. I wouldn't be in the personal power that I am in today. I wouldn't feel as confident and sure of myself and taking care of my kids and, traveling with them. And, they wouldn't be the super strong, awesome men that they are. So that's just one of my stories. And of course, that's not the full story. That's just a little niblet in there. But these experiences that we have in our life, like they're packaged with awakening nuggets. They're full of activations, right? They're full of opportunities to grow, to mature, to forgive, to find the blessing, and also the purpose of them. These were like largely root, second, and third chakra activations for me, where I got to see, that I wish that I didn't feel like I could support myself. I was looking for an outside means of support, which was failing me. And I kept doing that and for a while with different men, looking for men to support me who actually couldn't. And which turned it back on me. Like I actually generated those experiences for me so that I could find it within myself. So that was a wisdom, a projection from my own chakras in order to have that experience. Even not being supported through my pregnancy, as awful as that sounds and was at the time, it did. Sorry, I need water. One sec. Excuse me. So yeah, this is even opening my throat chakra to share this with you. Our stories have healing medicine in them. That's a throat chakra gift, is when we speak the things that were poison, but we're able to bring the medicine to them. That's a fifth chakra activation. That's an awakening when we tell the story differently. I'm grateful for this baby daddy who I even years later tried to go move back down near him and let him have another opportunity to help me with the boy. And he again just lounged around in my house for like a year and a half and, just picked at me and, poked at me. And I asked myself, why do I put myself in these situations? But I know that I still had triggers around it. I still had even like shaming of him around it. And I had to own all the parts of me in that situation until I didn't feel a trigger anymore. So I made myself go stand in it and work through that. And that was, like something I found as part of my journey just like I've done in lots of experiences where like my family and I were estranged for many years when I left the church that I grew up in, and I traveled and so forth, and I kept trying to be around them, but it was very difficult. Well, I kept making myself come be around them, and finally like being with them for a long time to like work through some of those wounds and like confront my own issues with them until I found, yeah, like this is all in me. This is my own stuff that I haven't been able to love about myself that I'm putting on them, right? And that's what we often do in our journey. We do create experiences that repel us and cause us to go within. And then part of the healing is to go back to those experiences, especially if they're still involved in our life. Like if I didn't have a child with that man, I wouldn't have felt a need to go back and address that, but I did because my child is connected to that person, right? And plus he was able to, you know, in person at an older age, interact with his dad and see for himself, you know, their north node, south node interaction. They actually have opposite north node, south node, which is very fascinating and often happens in a parent-child relationship. But his dad is a big sharer. He shares everything, which means he owns nothing, even though he has Taurus north node. So he's meant to like earn and provide, but he just gives it all away to everyone. But that's actually my son's north node, is to learn to share, and he's taught my dad how to, or not my dad, his dad, how to value money and save. So there's some big beautiful lessons that come up in these experiences for us. And yeah, so I believe that we create exactly what we need for our journey in our awakening. And a lot of times it doesn't seem like it in the moment, but if we understand, and why I spend so much time talking about the process of Kundalini, is if we understand this process as a concept, then when we're in an experience, it's a lot easier to see what's happening on a spiritual perspective and not get lost in it as an emotional experience. And that's why I took myself back to him later when I had a more open third eye, because I'm like, I can witness this better. I can be more detached while in it now. And I knew that I had been more emotionally involved previously. So these are the spirals of our life where we return again and again on our awakening, and we move up and down the centers, and we work through the different issues in our life until we, you know, find fluidity in them. This is, again, the paradox of integrating the positive and negative poles in each chakra. So, you know, when, you know, I had a teacher, Almeen, who I love very much, she would always say, if something has an opposite, it's not real. Because only the unity is real. So if we can say it's one way or the other, it's not the full picture, right? So even when I talk about certain things, like take it with a grain of salt, it's both ways. It might be confusing to the lower mind, but the higher mind understands. The wisdom mind understands that this world is a paradox, and we're meant to be in the paradox. You know, like I said, my North Node in Sagittarius in the 6th house is kind of a paradox. Like, be alone, be with people. Wander forever, have a home, and, you know, dress like a sadhu, dress really nice. Like, how to do both of those? Well, that's been my life path of doing both of those. I have done both of them separately, and now I'm learning to bring them together. And that's the interesting thing about these paradoxes we talk about. Okay, this is going a little longer than I wanted to, but I just want to share a little bit more about my personal experiences with you. Hopefully that will help you in some of yours, and we'll catch you again. Thank you for being a part of my channel. I love you. Namaste, and I'll see you again tomorrow.